Good morning and welcome to Church at Home with Rachael for Wednesday, the 9th of June. This week is going quickly. This morning I would like to talk to you a bit about how do we talk to children about death. I have the privilege later this morning, of officiating at the funeral for Jim Christensen, a member of my St. Mary's congregation at Edgerton. And I'm just, because of COVID and everything, I'm just getting to know people a little bit. And I had this incredible conversation with his granddaughter last night, who has young children, and she's not sure how to talk to her kids about death and what does this mean and what's happening with their great grandpa. And I found I was at really a loss for words. I have been doing this for 22 years, and I have been around death for my whole life. I remember the first funeral I went to. I was 4 years old, and it was my Uncle Fritz. I don't remember a lot about it, but I do remember it. And I was one of those people that I will say was fortunate in that death was a part. My family was big enough that death was a part of my growing up years. When I hit seminary, there were people in my seminary class, in my first year class with me, who had never been to the funeral of someone that they were close to in their lives. And so funerals and things like that became a big learning for all of us. But I remember thinking, how can you get that far? And the reality is lots of people have not had to experience death, nor have they had to try to figure out how to talk about death to others. Even with processing it for themselves is difficult. And then how do you do that with your spouse, your family, your friends, your children? And I realized that in all the years I have been officiating funerals, I don't believe that I've ever been asked to talk about to the kids about death, that has been an issue that's been brought to me. I'm sure it's been an issue, but this is the first time it's really been brought to me. And I found myself sort of wondering, how do I explain to a mom how to talk about death of a loved one for her children's sake? And when I got home last night, I remembered that I had a parishioner in my first parish in Mitchell who gave me this book called The Fall of Freddie the Leaf by Leo Buscaglia. And I'm going to read this. It's called The Story of Life for All Ages. I'm going to share this story with you right now. I'm not going to pretend to be a good storyteller and show you the pictures because we'll just get all discombobulated, but you can close your eyes and listen. Use your imagination. Spring had passed, so had the summer. Freddie the Leaf had grown large. His midsection was wide and strong, and his 5 extensions were firm and pointed. He had first appeared in spring as a small sprout on a rather large branch near the top of a tall tree. Freddie was surrounded by hundreds of other trees just like himself, or so it seemed. Soon he discovered that no 2 leaves were alike, even though they were on the same tree. Alfred was the leaf next to him, Ben was the leaf on his right side, and Claire was the lovely leaf overhead. They had all grown up together. They had learned to dance in the spring breezes, bask lazily in the summer suns, and wash off in the cooling rains. But it was Daniel who was Freddie's best friend. He was the largest leaf on the limb and seemed to have been there before anyone else. It appeared to Freddie that Daniel was also the wisest among them. It was Daniel who told them that they were part of a tree. It was Daniel who explained they were growing in a public park. It was Daniel who told them that the tree had strong roots which were hidden in the ground below. He explained about the birds who came to sit on their branch and sing morning songs. He explained about the sun, the moon, and the stars in all the seasons. Freddie loved being a leaf. He loved his branch, his light leafy friends, his place high in the sky, the wind that jostled him about, the sun rays that warmed him, the moon that covered him with soft white shadows. Summer had been especially nice. The long, hot days felt good, and the warm nights were peaceful and dreamy. There were many people in the park that summer. They often came and sat under Freddie's tree. Daniel told him that giving shade was part of his purpose. "What's a purpose?" Freddie had asked. "A reason for being," Daniel had answered. "To make things more pleasant for others is the reason for being. To make shade for old people who come to escape the heat of their homes is a reason for being. To provide a cool place for children to come and play. To fan with our leaves the picnickers who come to eat on checkerboard tablecloths. These are all reasons for being. Freddie especially liked the old people. They sat so quietly on the cool grass and hardly ever moved. They talked in whispers of times past. The children were fun too, even though they sometimes tore holes in the bark of the tree or carved their names into it. Still, it was fun to watch them move so fast and to laugh so much. But Freddie's summer soon passed. It vanished on an October night. He had never felt it so cold. All the leaves shivered with the cold. They were coated with a thin layer of white which quickly melted and left them dew-drenched and sparkling in the morning sun. Again, it was Daniel who explained that they had experienced their first frost, the sign that it was fall and that winter would soon come. Almost at once, the whole tree, in fact the whole park, was transformed into a blaze of color. There was hardly a green leaf left. Alfred had turned a deep yellow, Ben had become a bright orange, Claire had become a blazing red, Daniel a deep purple, and Freddie was red and gold and blue. How beautiful they all looked. Freddie and his friends had made their tree a rainbow. Why did we turn different colors? Freddie asked, when we were on the same tree. Each of us is different. We've had different experiences. We have faced the sun differently. We have cast shade differently. Why should we not have different colors? Daniel said matter-of-factly. Daniel told Freddie that this wonderful season was called fall. One day a very strange thing happened. The same breezes that in the past had made them dance began to push and pull at their stems, almost as if they were angry. This caused some of the leaves to be torn from their branches and swept up in the wind, tossed about and dropped softly to the ground. All the leaves became frightened. What's happening? They asked each other in whispers. It's what happens in fall, Daniel told them. It's the time for leaves to change their home. Some people call it to die. Will we all die? Freddie asked. Yes, Daniel answered, everything dies, no matter how big or small, how weak or strong. We first do our job. We experience the sun and the moon, the wind and the rain. We learn to dance and to laugh. Then we die. I won't die, said Freddie with determination. Will you, Daniel? Yes, answered Daniel, when it's my time. When is that? Asked Freddie. No one knows for sure, Daniel responded. Freddie noticed that the other leaves continued to fall. He thought it must be their time. He saw that some of the leaves lashed back at the wind before they fell. Others simply let go and dropped quietly. Soon the tree was almost bare. I'm afraid to die, Freddie told Daniel. I don't know what's down there. We all fear what we don't know, Freddie. It's natural, Daniel reassured him. Yet you were not afraid when spring became summer. You were not afraid when summer became fall. They were natural changes. Why should you be afraid of the season of death? Does the tree die too? Freddie asked. Someday. But there is something stronger than the tree. It is life. That lasts forever, and we are all part of life. Where will we go when we die? No one knows for sure. That's the great mystery. Will we return in the spring? We may not, but life will. Then what has been the reason for all this? Freddie continued to question. Why are we here at all if we only have to fall and die? Daniel answered in his matter-of-fact way. It's been about the sun and the moon. It's been about the happy times together. It's been about the shade and the old people and the children. It's been about colors in fall. It's been about seasons. Isn't that enough? That afternoon, in the golden light of dusk, Daniel let go. He fell effortlessly. He seemed to smile peacefully as he fell. Goodbye for now, Freddie, he said. Then Freddie was alone, the only leaf left on his branch. The first snow fell the following morning. It was soft, white, and gentle, but it was bitter cold. There was hardly any sun that day, and the day was very short. Freddie found himself losing his color, becoming brittle. It was constantly cold, and the snow weighed heavily upon him. At dawn, the wind came that took Freddie from his branch. It didn't hurt at all. He felt himself float quietly, gently and softly downward. As he fell, he saw the whole tree for the first time. How strong and firm it was. He was sure it would live for a long time. and he knew that he had been a part of its life, and it made him proud. Freddie landed on a clump of snow. It somehow felt soft and even warm. In this new position, he was more comfortable than he had ever been. He closed his eyes and fell asleep. He did not know that spring would follow winter and that the snow would melt into water. He did not know that what appeared to be his useless, dried self would join with the water and serve to make the tree stronger. Most of all, he did not know that there, asleep in the tree and the ground, were already plans for new leaves in the spring. The beginning. What a beautiful little book. Now, for those of you who would like to have something that speaks more of Christ and Christianity, this isn't that book specifically. I don't know yet, and if you know of one, please comment and let me know, because I'd like to gather them, these resources. But I don't know yet of a book that speaks about our Christian faith, that speaks to children. I let the young lady know last night that maybe her best response to her children was to answer the questions that they pose, not to assume the questions they might ask or to expand on them and give them too much information, but to simply allow the kids to ask the questions and to be honest, to maybe when the time comes in a few weeks to go up to the graveside and sit there and talk to Grandpa, talk to God, share some stories and think about who Grandpa is now that he is in his heart, in their hearts, that they can't see him any longer, but he is still there with them. We, as a society, I think, don't do such a great job of talking about death. It's like something we want to avoid. And that's unfortunate because our children need to learn about death. That's a natural part of the life cycle. They need to learn about resurrection and hope and new life with Jesus, and what life looks like for those of us who are still here after we have experienced the death of a loved one. I think that we need to do better at that. I'm not sure how to do that yet, but like I said, if you have resources or ideas, please comment or email me or let me know what you think, because I'm always up for listening for new things. We can only grow together if we share together. And so this day I ask you that you will pray in thanksgiving for Jim's life. Pray for his family, for his friends, for all of the people in this community who loved him, that he helped so much, people around the world, remembering especially John in Holland, but praying especially for all those who are experiencing pain and suffering or loneliness or mourning. There has been a lot of that in the last year, and we need to learn how to speak to each other with faithfulness and honesty, to be able to share with each other how we're really feeling and to offer comfort to one another in that as well. So I invite you to pray for those that you have loved and do not see any longer, those who we will be reunited with when the time comes in heaven. And I pray that you would reach out to others and give them your love today, those that are still with us. Don't lose the opportunity to say I love you, to teach like Daniel taught Freddie. Have a wonderful day. God bless you, and I'll see you tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachel.